Hello everyone, this is Frank Hurtte of River Heights Consulting. What you're about to see is a presentation delivered to a group of distribution executives at the Winter 2014 Strategic Pricing Associates Summit in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with these sessions, David Bowders and his team at Strategic Pricing Associates sponsor several gatherings each year to share some of the latest trends in the world of pricing process within wholesale distribution. It's a gathering of some of the smartest people in the industry. And for some reason, I keep being invited. And here's the part that really is amazing. I keep being invited to speak near the end of the meeting. Now, can you imagine taking the podium following the likes of Modern Distribution Management's Tom Gale or Jonathan Bean of Real Result Marketing or maybe even St. Louis University's innovator in residence Steve Epner? These are some real heavy hitters, and here I am following them up, so I'm always in awe. Now, I also knew that I needed to be short because I was the last guy, and I wanted to be to the point and as witty as somebody from Iowa can be. And what you're about to see is the presentation that I delivered to the group, so stay tuned. What I want to do today is just ask 10 questions. 10 questions that I think impact our business, 10 questions that I believe demand an answer, and finally, at the very end, I'm going to toss out some thoughts in terms of how you might prioritize your actions in the future. Question number 1. Do you believe that our business environment's changing? Now, I think it's pretty hard to justify any kind of answer except a resounding yes. Our customers want more services, they want faster responses, they want more solutions, and they want tons of other things. And we've got more competitors. The big national chains are pushing into the sacred waters of some of the product niches that little distributors had for years. Amazon and Google are eyeballing the green grass we once claimed as our own happy hunting ground. Supply partners want more from their distribution folks, and we find ourselves doing some of the tasks once performed by these field sales teams of the manufacturers. Besides the obvious sales-related functions, these suppliers want things like POS data and online order capabilities and extended customer training capabilities. And while technology is a wonderful thing, but the internet has changed the role of selling from human search engines capable of coming up with specifications and application data to complex problem solving. Phone systems and voicemail have created a world where everybody's hard to reach. Technology is now available to everyone, regardless of your company size and type. Even the people we work with is shifting every day. Baby boomers are marching off to the retirement sands up down here in Florida at a rate of 19,000 a day. Generation X, Millennium Generation, and whatever the other ones you want to call aren't behaving, and they aren't thinking like the old-timers ahead of them. Demographic shifts are making our world spin like a broken boomerang. Does our own company need to change to keep up? Eliminate the middleman and save. Eliminate the middleman and save. For some reason, I can't seem to get the picture of that old billboard along Route 151 out of my head. It's an American axiom that's only true if we distributors fail to change and morph our business model to match the needs of the folks we deal with, whether they be our customers or our suppliers. We have to remember, distribution is a changing business, and for us, not changing brings death to our companies and death to our industry. And it can bring extinction faster than we can even imagine. So to me, the answer to this question is, yeah, we do need to change, and we live in a constant area of change. So here's question number 3. Does it work better if everyone in the company changes in the same direction? Well, as leaders, it's our job to direct the change. When everybody flies in formation, we're more efficient, more effective, and more profitable. All departments, all our branches, our technology resources, and our culture has to change in the same direction and, believe it or not, at roughly the same time. I find any argument for changing in a divergent direction as questionable. So again, I think the answer to this one is yes, we do have to change in the same direction. Question number 4. Is it harder to change when you don't know what you're doing today? Well, for this, I'm going to defer to the dash-mounted GPS unit in my car. Before providing any kind of driving directions to my destination, it goes through a series of steps called finding the current location. Most distributors feel like they know what they're doing today, but deep analysts indicate that they aren't really sure how things work in the sales department. I concur with my GPS on this one. We need to know where we're at and what's going on before we start making any changes. And I think this is particularly true in the sales groups. Okay, so here's a hard one. Say, what's the difference between your accounting and your sales department? Well, some would say, well, he or she's a natural-born salesperson, and I'm not going to get into that argument because I wonder if it's feasible to say that, well, Frank's a natural-born accountant. True, some folks have natural skills with numbers. They like to keep track of things, but would you trust your accounting functions to someone who is a natural if they didn't have some strong understanding of standard accounting practices? Tax codes, financial institutions, and others insist on specific procedures, and distributors are pretty good at following them. As leaders, we insist on it from our team. But when it gets down to the sales department, we have a few procedures. No measures of success in building customer relationships. Many of us have a hard time explaining if a salesman's really successful because of their regimented activities or because they've been managed to find themselves in a lucky territory. I believe evidence points to a simple answer to this question. Accounting has a process and sales doesn't. Now here's a great question. What happens when you try to make some changes in the sales group? Well, here's my experience. Screaming and kicking and gnashing of teeth. Most distributors discover the one department which should be a harbinger of change is really the most resistant to change. And what's worse is salespeople can be pretty darn convincing. They offer up dozens of excuses, customer issues, competitive issues, supplier issues, and even some things that are way even more convincing than those. The very nature of their work puts them outside the eyes of supervision. Some say they've changed but don't, and they silently bide their time until management relents. Others use their commission plan as a trump card against making any changes, saying, hey, I work on commission, so I have to do what's right. A good many will go underground, too. Their company begins changing or doing something like charging for delivery on nickel and dime sized orders. And they take the time away from their selling to personally run over the territory delivering it in their car, which I really wonder about. The point of all this is simply we got to anticipate any kind of pushback. And as leaders, we have to learn to hold our ground. Let's ask question number 7 is, why is it important to document our direction? Well, let's think about sales department pushback. One of the things the sales guys will say is our boss goes out and hears some slick talking consultant, and probably not from me that is, and comes back with a harebrained idea and tells us to go forth and follow a plan. It's the old idea of the month thing. But documenting slows down the whole activity. It forces us to rethink the idea. It helps us refine the course. And what's more, documenting the direction helps others better understand where we're going. It allows better and faster training, and it steadies the course and removes distractions along the way. Okay, question 8 is, why would we want to measure our progress? Well, I'm going to go back to Mr. Pearson and Pearson's law, which says That which is measured improves, and that which is measured and documented improves dramatically. We live in a world full of distractions. Measuring progress keeps you moving in the right direction. One client of mine is fond of saying, no coach trains his team to the final score. No football coach says, we need to score more touchdowns. Instead, they work on blocking and tackling, first downs, lots of little steps that lead to better scores. They realize it's the little things that drive success, and for leaders in distribution, it's about the steps that lead to more customers, customer retention, more efficient handling of orders, and all kinds of things like that. Simply stated, if we only measure that final thing that most of us look at, and our sales guys like to look at, and that's their total sales, we miss out on the little things that drive more customer orders. Okay, bear with me. We're getting close to the end. This is question number 9. What's the difference between coaching and managing? For one thing, coaching is about personal development, helping each and every person perform to the best of their ability. Coaching's one-on-one. Coaching is the first approach to growing your team. Coaching's about building playbooks and organizing the players so everyone's in the right place. It's about getting the most from everyone on the team. And management, well, it's the next step. Sometimes coaching involves setting harsh reality that a player doesn't belong on the team. Management sometimes involves jettisoning that person who refuses to respond to your coaching. Ideally, both coaching and managing are based on objective metrics. People aren't judged on personality or attitudes. Instead, decisions are made on performance data. Are they following documented procedures? Are they performing in the small steps needed for the greater success? And finally, the last question, what should we do today? This is the question that needs the greatest thought. Doing nothing's pretty easy. Doing the right thing involves evaluation of risks and rewards. Doing something right now is ultimately important. There may be a whole lot to do. And here's some things to ponder. First, in any well-thought-out plan, processes interact with one another. Improving one thing typically improves many other points along the way. Everything in our business and the sales side interacts with the things it touches. And here's an example. When you build a pricing process, one of the typical first steps is segmenting customers by size, by business types, and by ease of doing business. The activities of segmenting improves the marketing, it improves sales effectiveness, and it also helps in planning. Different pieces of the puzzle, but each of these is improved. So building a real process is important. There are 3 parts of a real process. And first, let me say, there's no such thing as an informal process. Many distributors lull themselves into believing they have processes, but it's done on a person-by-person basis. Not so, not a process. I'm sorry to tell you that. To be a real process, there has to be 3 key ingredients. First, there has to be documentation. It's got to be a detailed written or at least flow-charted document which describes how the process works, who's responsible for each phase of the process, how things are going to be measured along the way, and who has the ability to modify the process in those exceptional cases. Secondly, there needs to be metrics. Metrics take the subjectivity out of the equation. We can understand if progress is being made regardless of our mood. Our team can understand their own personal improvement without going back to management to get some kind of pat on the head. And coaching and management points. The metrics give us places to help our team improve as the organization moves through the plan. Coaching and managing is predictable and without opportunity for personality to come into play. I've already made this point before, but there's a definite interaction between processes. You improve one process, and everything that touches it is improved as well. We talked about the pricing process, and that's a great example because pricing process forces you to do segmentation. It forces you to do documentation that's written. It forces you to put measures in place, and it also forces you to do some targeting. And all of those things improve the overall interaction with your customers and your business. I'm going to wrap up and get moving on, but I want to say one thing. People often ask me, what should I do first? And that's a good question. Because one of the things that I believe is a criteria that we have to put into play each time is profitability. Are there things that can make us $1, or are there things that can make us tens or hundreds or millions of dollars? We want to do the one that makes money first. The second part is we want to do things that interact with the rest of the process. So if we can find one piece that acts as a catalyst to improve the rest of our business, then I say we need to go for it. And when you think in that kind of light, there are two things that really shine through. First is pricing process and targeting. Let me talk just very briefly about this in terms of pricing process. I've had the opportunity to closely observe the work of David Bowders and his SPA team for the past 2 or 3 years. Their clients typically drive 2 full points of improved gross margin. And the cool thing about gross margin improvement comes because most of it falls to the bottom line. And I think generally speaking, it's easy to say that 80% of those 2 points of improved gross margin fall to the bottom line. We see instant profit improvement for the whole home team, and the pricing process improves the distributor's work in segmentation, value selling, and overall operational efficiency. The other area that I think absolutely positively has to be looked at is targeting. Companies who work a real and vibrant targeting process are 47% more effective in reaching their sales goals. They understand their value, and more importantly, they know which customers are most likely to benefit from that value. Salespeople plan better, they bring new products to the market faster and waste less time. Managers have more and better coaching points and measures of success. New salespeople, especially, get traction faster with less thrashing around. Now, with those in mind, think about your answers to these 10 questions. Think about what you should be doing in the future. I think, at least from my standpoint, that your path is relatively clearly laid out. Before we go, let me throw in a word about my new book, The Distributor's Fee-Based Services Manifesto. One of my clients calls this book a license to make money. I think that the world is changing, that distributors have been giving away so many services over the course of time that it's become like a extravaganza of who can one-up the other person in throwing in more and more services for free, and at some point it's got to stop. I believe that one of the cool things about targeting, one of the cool things about having a price process is this. Distributors who have those plans in place are about 3 times more likely to be able to charge for some of their services. And I think that's huge. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if you have questions, I know I've asked you a lot of questions, feel free to give me a call. My information can be found at these locations. I'm at riverheightsconsulting.com. You can call me at 563-514-1104. We ask that you might want to visit our Distributor Channel blog. It's called thedistributorchannel.blogspot.com, or else check out my books on Amazon. Thank you, time, and you have a great day.